Hey y'all, what's going on? It is me, Guillotine. It's been a while since I've cast a game for you or shown you anything really that wasn't just myself playing, and yesterday these two players were at each other's throats on the ladder, matching over and over and over again. Every single match was just awesome. Both of these players, former #1 players in the world. With the most recent claim to that crown is Xinsii here in the blue, our Chinese player. And to the bottom left, flying an American flag, but we all know that you are Korean, we have MiD. Players like to approach this map a little bit differently. MiD here opting to fill up his mineral line before putting down any gas. We can see he's rallying towards the gas right now, and a gas will be going down as soon as this worker pops out. Over, Xinsii already has a gas down, is continuing to build workers. Going for a double gas. Players tend to be a little bit greedy on this map because it is rather large, and you don't immediately know where your opponent is. Both players opting to go double gas. No one has sent out a worker scout yet, no one has a barracks yet, and no one has walked a worker down to take an expansion. MiD sending a worker out now. We'll see if he's going for a scout or if he's going to start building on the low ground. Puts a barracks down, decides to move it off to the right, and MiD, I'm assuming, is going to go ahead and start working, saving for that expansion. Meanwhile, Xinsii is placing that barracks in the high ground. Once you get this deep into your build, it's less likely you're going to see any worker scouting, and both players will probably opt to purchase an owl pretty soon. MiD did elect to delay his gases just a tiny bit, so that owl is not going to be quite ready to be built yet. However, Xinsii back home does start his owl. Second barracks is going down. However, still has not sent a worker down to the natural. The lack of vision is really making me nervous for Xinsii. Back over on the other side of the map, it looks like MiD has walked a worker down to his natural, and we'll see an expansion go down. He also has a Wolf Rider that has come out that he's going to send and scout with the Wolf Rider. More Wolf Riders being built. The other units that MiD will have at his disposal for this match, we have Swordsmen, Ninja Goblins, you've seen the Wolf Riders, we have some Cannoneers, and Mini Dragons. MiD does love his Mini Dragons, one of the only top players that still uses them, and on the other side of the map with a more modern, more new meta deck, Xinsii is showcasing Rangers, Vikings, Snipers, Elf, and Little Witch. As far as spells go, Xinsii is using Chrono Boost to help speed up the production time as well as Recall. MiD down in the bottom left, transferring workers out of his main down into his natural. Not exactly the way I would have done it, but I'm not going to question MiD. MiD is using Swift and Temptation as his spells. You see me use Swift often, Temptation not quite as much. We'll see if it comes into play in this match. The only unit that Xinsii really has that is worth stealing would be those elves, potentially a witch in the right situation, but if you're looking at just cost to cost, stealing a witch is not very cost effective. Electrical towers going down for Xinsii. MiD is also using electrical towers. This owl is able to get in and get a little scout, so Xinsii knows right now that MiD has expanded. MiD has sent up a couple of Wolf Riders up to the top. They are going to get ran off though by this herd of Vikings. Wolf Riders are pretty tanky and they have good damage, but the attack speed is very slow. You really need something in front of them to hold the front line to get great value out of them. Xinsii here wisely turning around, not chasing. Both players retreating, going home, defending their second, and both players I'm sure you will see very soon working towards getting that third up. Some of those Cannoneers are coming out for MiD. More barracks going down. It's going to increase unit production. Xinsii, Chrono again, we've got a mana extractor going up, so we'll see him start investing in some tech. Before researching any of the runes, the laboratory already goes down, and I imagine that Xinsii is going to race, try to get to that mana gate. Going over what's in the mana extractor, there's natural healing, ground movement speed, Iron Axe, and Ambush. Iron Axe increases the amount of time that units are stunned from the Vikings, and Ambush allows snipers to be invisible, obviously unless you have an owl, or if they are actively taking damage. With a mana extractor of his own, MiD also has natural healing, increased rate of healing, along with increased ranged attack speed and heavy armor defense upgrades. Some of those Cannoneers are moving out, along with a Wolf Rider. Good owl placement by Xinsii. He knows that that attack is coming. Xinsii elects to go for his third, but MiD also with good owl placement knows that that third is down. MiD's going to send another owl, try to hunt down Shinsii's owl. In a game like this, map vision is everything, and if you can take that away from your opponent, you're going to have a massive advantage. Xinsii continuing to tech. Over in the Mana Laboratory, we have Raid, which will, for a duration of time, increase the attack and movement speed of those rangers. Natural Healing Tier 2, reduce cooldown timer, and range attack percentage. We also can see Xinsii teching towards that mana gate, probably trying to crank out Storm Arrow as quickly as possible. Mid moving up to the middle with some Cannoneers, with some Swordsmen, and with a Wolf Rider, an Owl floating on top. This could be our first major collision of the match. Both players going up to that 12 o'clock base. Mid was able to sneak in and put an electrical tower up near the castle, so it is at least going to be delayed. The worker building the castle does go down. Xinsii moving in to clean it up. However, Mid's going to try to pin him up into this 12 o'clock base, keeping those tanks on the ramp, positioned to where he can isolate the elves down below while keeping only 2 elves up top. Xinsii does use recall. Those units that are recalling for that full 8-second duration are only taking about 13% damage, making them all incredibly tanky. Still no cancel here from Xinsii, trying to fight down, trying to keep Mid's army at bay, but Mid smartly tempts the elf in the back line. That elf is just going to mow down Shinsi's army from behind, and it looks like Mid is going to be able to take the 12 o'clock position. Mid also taking his third over on the very far left side of the map. Xinsii is going to have to cancel this castle soon, but huge mistake. No cancel on the castle. That is a minus 400 minerals for Xinsii. At this stage in the game, that is a big blow, but it's not the end of the world. Shinsi's elves are going to trade very efficiently, especially once Storm Arrow gets activated. We can go ahead and check on the progress now, and it has been activated. So I would imagine Xinsii here is going to go mass elf and really try to trade hyper efficient and get back in this thing. We also see a dropship come out. We'll have to keep an eye on it, but there's going to be a fight here right at the front of Shinsi's natural. Mid is currently leading an army supply. In comes the first big Storm Arrow. It's going to be kind of a whiff. However, Xinsii does take out the elf that was tempted away earlier. Those glowing red decals around the feet of the swordsman means that Mid has activated Mirror Shield. Every time that the swordsmen take damage, they're going to deal a little bit of damage back, even versus ranged, even versus flying units. These rangers are going to basically just sit here and melt themselves as they attack the swordsman. That recall going down perhaps just a tiny bit too late. All of the rangers seem to have died. Mid yoinks another elf, but it goes down quick as more reinforcing rangers are coming in from the main base. Electrical Tower is able to finally start taking out those swordsmen one by one. Elves are coming out, more storm arrows are going off, and it looks like Xinsii is going to hold here. All things considered, Xinsii isn't that far behind. Down a base, yes, but with a larger bank. It looks like the last Cannoneer is going to go down right now. Both players are going to get a chance to kind of reset. More Cannoneers coming out from Mid. He's already got them rallied across the map. Xinsii needs to get that third base up and going, and most importantly needs to start mining gas. Xinsii is going to have to go mass elf, and elves take a lot of gas. Mid, however, is not the player that's just going to sit back and let you do it. Lots of units already being rallied up to the 12 o'clock position. Mid wants to maintain map control, wants to make sure that Xinsii does not secure 12 o'clock. Also, Mid has gone for his fourth. I like this move, electing to go for the high ground rather than the low. I find it easier to defend, and the fifth can be on the low ground right there, or Mid can decide to take a forward fifth down to the bottom right. Here we have another altercation. Xinsii hits Raid, but he's going to try to run his rangers to the top. Storm Arrow comes down and only takes about half of the HP of that lone Cannoneer. It's very inefficient for these rangers to attack into the swords because they're going to kill themselves faster than they can kill the swords. Xinsii here is going to have to stick and move with Storm Arrow with these elves, micro his heart out. Because those Wolf Riders and because those tanks can almost match the range of the elf, Xinsii has to just be careful and make sure not to get too close. Mid forces the cancel in the 12 o'clock position, now moving into the natural of Xinsii. Mid is in the driver's seat for sure, but still needs to be careful. The elf count for Xinsii keeps growing. Once you get to about 10 elves or so, they can become out of hand. In comes a big Storm Arrow, taking out about 4 or 5 swordsmen. Xinsii is going to hold again, and Mid continuing to send army up one by one. This is not how you want to attack elves. What you generally want to do is hit them from multiple angles. You definitely don't want to be in a corridor like this. Each one of those Cannoneers that goes down is 100 mineral, 100 gas, and Xinsii is going to take that all day long in hopes to just eventually catch back up. But behind this, Mid is doing Mid things, taking up every available base that there is on the map. I credit a lot of my style and the things that I've learned from players like #1 Mechanic and Pink foxi, but when it comes to macro, I learned so much from just training with mid. Mid will often use a smaller army and just keep you busy by manufacturing these small skirmishes throughout the map. Meanwhile, behind it, he's sucking up every available resource known to man. That way, if you do win a fight, just like right here, Xinsii wins this fight, right, and is able to take back the 12 o'clock position, but that took time. Time is money. And also, mid was able to take a few of the resources away from those patches. It truly is suffocation at its finest. So many games I'd play against mid on back the bigger 4-player maps used to be in the 1v1 ladder map pool, and I'd play against mid and think, oh man, I was close that time, and I'd look at the replay and this guy had like 12 bases to my 3. It was insane. He's just got this way of giving you false hope and making you think that you're about to break through, only to drop the hammer on you. But this one is far from over. Xinsii is going to get a scout in the top left. Know that mid is there. However, Xinsii has secured a third, the elf count continues to grow, and the 5 o'clock position is still open. We still could see a split map, and that is the last thing that mid wants. When you play like mid, the downside is the longer the match goes on, the longer the other player survives, the more dire it starts to look for you. Recall hitting right here, going to save these elves out from the middle. Let's see where they go. They're going to go back to Xinsii's natural and play a little bit of defense while 2 of them do load into a dropship. Have to keep an eye out and see where that one goes. But back to my point, mid's going to mine out much faster than Xinsii if this becomes a split map, and those elves trade far more efficient than mid's army. Mid here though, not waiting around, steals another elf, in comes a storm arrow. 2 wolf riders do go down. The stolen elf's going to go down. This tank's got 1 HP, it also goes down. Mid though, going to put pressure again on that 12 o'clock position. Going to send in some swords. Another storm arrow comes in, a wolf rider and a cannon goes down. Another wolf rider is not going to last much longer. Those swords are putting in work. A nice ranger drop in the top left of the map. I would like to see just a few more rangers so that the electrical tower didn't kill them so quickly, but nonetheless, Xinsii is able to kill a few workers. Mid's going to have to rebuild those, but that shouldn't be a problem. Mid's got the money to do it. Perhaps that drop came just a little bit too late. Mid expanding into that 5 o'clock position. The suffocation is real, but Xinsii holding on by a thread. Mid is still going to have to handle these elves some kind of a way, whether he tempts them away one by one or some sort of multi-prong attack. More elves are coming out. Dropships are filling up. We'll see what else Xinsii has up his sleeve. As much as I hate to say it, and it's not the sexiest of moves, but I think Xinsii really needs to turtle here, try to force mid to attack up these ramps, see if you can get some good connects. Map control isn't enough. Mid's still going to have to come and kill you. Massive storm arrow taking out 3 tanks, whole bunch of swords, whole bunch of wolf riders. This is the trade I'm talking about right here. If you can force this 2 or 3 more times, I think we're looking at another tied ball game. Heading into extra innings, penalty kicks, overtime, whatever your sports analogy of choice is. 5 o'clock here for mid is up, not completely mining yet. He might realize he needs to put a little bit more into army, try to catch Xinsii while he's out of his base. Much like this, Xinsii not listening to me, and good on ya. No one wants to watch some turtles play anyways. Xinsii is going for a pretty big attack. I like this positioning here for Xinsii, going up, using the map to your advantage, able to turn around. Oh, storm arrow shot into absolutely nothing. Mind games here by mid, holding his army back, waiting for the arrow to come, and now he knows he's got a few seconds to get up and get onto these elves. Xinsii able to take down the electrical tower right here. I would micro these elves, yes, like this, right behind the workers. Another storm arrow comes down, taking out a huge chunk of mid's army. I would still like to see Xinsii move those elves all the way to the left behind the mineral line, prioritize taking down the workers. It looks like he's going to do that now. That way I feel like they're the most safe. You can get a few extra shots in, recall when you need to. Another storm arrow comes down, 2 more tanks. Xinsii reinforcing with 2 elves down on the backside. A third elf comes in. Xinsii might not have to recall at all right here. An elf gets tempted away, but it's not going to matter all that much. These 2 bases might fall for mid. Xinsii with a huge play. Storm arrow comes down. It's going to take out the castle for mid. Cannoneers moving in, but it's not going to do too much damage. More elves coming in through the rear. I really think that Xinsii here could turn the tides. He's got enough in the bank to double expand behind this. I think the elf count is to a point to where he's not really scared of the tanks anymore. I think Xinsii really just needs to get into these two positions, start building the economy, be careful with swordsmen, be careful with the wolf riders. Mid's, I think, going to have to start looking towards going on a counterattack, going for a backstab. I think that it's inevitable that that top left is going to fall, but luckily you're very far ahead. You just have to be kind of efficient. Xinsii still has to be hyper efficient. You just have to be kind of efficient. At this point, I'm kind of surprised that we haven't seen any mini dragon play come out from mid. Mini dragons aren't particularly great versus elves, but mid is good enough to be able to split on the go and micro them. Mid is going for a backstab here, going for the 12 o'clock position. There is a whole bunch of workers sitting over here. Even if Xinsii does clear out the two bases in the top left, if he's got no workers to build it, that's going to pose for a problem. Xinsii, though, realizing that he's under attack, is going to use recall, going to take all of those elves and few rangers back home and defend. Mid's going to have to pull out. Shinsii's even able to save quite a bit of workers. Not the most favorable position for these elves as the recall shield runs dry. He's going to have to dance around just a little bit, waiting for Storm Arrow to come back, and there it is, able to take out a few. Not the best hit. Tank does go down. Now he just needs to escape these swordsmen and reestablish the dominance of this high ground. This base, very important, mostly for the gas. The mineral account's not that bad, but the gas is becoming dire. He needs to be able to keep up elf production if he's going to want to pull this one out. Right now, Xinsii might be feeling pretty good, being able to take out two of Mid's bases while going home and defending, taking out a huge chunk of Mid's army, but Mid is behind it, macroing yet again. It looks like Xinsii has sent a worker down to try and take his fourth base, and he's going to be quite upset when he realizes that Mid is already populating that area. Here's the worker now coming across. He's about to get hit in the face with some tanks. Rest in peace, little goblin. Mid right here, though, realizing that the elves are out in the open. This is a time that you want to try to hit from all angles, but the recall comes down just in time. Elves coming back to the high ground. They're going to try and lure Mid in. It seems like the entirety of the game has taken place at this position. Huge Storm Arrow comes in, taking out a chunk of army, but not quite enough. Elves are going to have to reposition, and it looks like one of those elves is going to unfortunately go down. I don't know if 3 is going to be enough to hold this off. They move behind the mineral line. Another good Storm Arrow connects, but more and more tanks keep rolling in. Even if Xinsii is able to hold right here, I think Mid can still continue to remax and remax. Mid smartly right here, spreading those tanks out, making Xinsii pick and choose. He's not going to be able to use Storm Arrow and get all of them. They have made it up the ramp. He's able to take 2 out with 1 shot, but 2 tanks still remaining. They're going to target down the elves. Only 1 elf left, and the last one's going to go down. Those tanks are going to get free shots off on workers. The swordsman is also there. Dropship coming into the top left. It's going to get hit with electrical towers, and I think right now Xinsii is in denial, realizing that this game is over. Another handful of elves come in as one last-ditch effort. One does get tempted away. Xinsii is virtually out of gas, is not going to be able to rebuild elves. There's 2 left on the battlefield. One's going to get focused down by some swords. The other's going to get focused down by wolf riders. The tanks are coming in. They're able to clear up the rangers. 1 elf does survive. It's going to move back into the natural, but Xinsii calls GG right here, and good game it was. Mid takes the victory. Hats off to both of these guys. When people tell me there's no way a competitive RTS can be on mobile, they just haven't seen this game yet. Anyways, I'll holler at y'all next time. Later.